I'll take a shot with that. But I also do like Valpo, and so doesn't our buddy Jordan here that does one of these write-ups. Where we disagree, obviously, here is in the next one. He likes George Washington. George Washington here, playing San Diego State at MSG today. San Diego State line up to 3.5, total at 128, 129, depending where you are shopping. San Diego State, obviously one of the better defenses in the country. San Diego State, one of the better teams this year that we've personally made money on. Betting second half team total unders, whoever San Diego State's playing, it was doing real well. We got a loss, not last game, but the game before. I forget who it was against. Who was it against? It was against Washington. That game just went way out of control. But you bet, say they played Georgia Tech. You take Georgia Tech second half team total under. Boom. We're talking at like well over 80% through 40, 50 games that's hitting at, obviously. And, I've been preaching it all year. So if you've been playing it, you've been playing it. If not, maybe you want to get on it now. Home or away, it doesn't really make much difference. The record is a little better at home, but overall, it is what it is. George Washington, no slouch. They're a good team. They're going to grind you out as well. They have a defense that lets up less than 70 points a game. They beat Florida in a close game. Their last 6 games, all conference tournament and these tournaments, all have gone over as we got a ball in the gap here to start it off, just as I expected. Jake Arrieta not looking too hot here as Oakland gets on board first here in the top of the first. Got to like that. Anyway, back to this one. Florida, Monmouth, they beat the likes of Monmouth, but all these games went over. Florida obviously was playing a little up-tempo. Monmouth, an up-tempo type team. These totals were in the 150s. St. Joe's will grind you out, but they ended up running with these guys. George Washington will play towards your style. However, San Diego State will want to grind it out. The total's a little low. Usually, which is weird, obviously you're rooting for more points in the first half for George Washington because, say they get to 40 points at the first half. In their second half team totals 33, that's a adjusted number of 73. Where if you take the game team total at 63, you're getting a better adjusted number. The more they score in the first half, the better defense and offense that you have. Anyway, so obviously I would tend to lean towards that. As far as a side, San Diego State is probably the side. Jeez, my daughter's pretty excited. I just got her a projector in her room and she's got to show everybody. Anyway, sorry about that. San Diego State, I do like to win the game. You look at Jordan, though, another, someone that I obviously respect in this one. He likes George Washington, is likely to struggle to score against San Diego State, he says, like most teams do. Their strength offensively is matched by San Diego's strength defensively, but he thinks struggling offenses are also going to be a two-way street, meaning both teams are going to struggle to score, which I agree. The first 2 NIT games saw San Diego State dominate against teams that can take them out of their comfort zone defensively. But then when they were matched up by Georgia Tech, a team that plays right into the teeth of their defense, in their travel, tired Yellow Jackets were only able to muster less than a point per possession, right? And I expect more of the same here, although San Diego State's the one that's traveling far. Georgia Tech, they're going to face the 1-3-1 on one end, a zone on the other end. Not a lot of points, but again, the total's a little small, and usually in the San Diego State games, they don't ramp up that full court pressure to the second half. So again, I like waiting for the half to make these plays. However, I do like San Diego State to win the game. Jordan doesn't, but hey, what's up, Jeremy? How you doing? So anyway, that's that one. What's the next one here? So keep that in mind anyway. UC Irvine against Columbia. This is an interesting one. You get the 7-foot wonder in the middle there. In Columbia, that just keeps rolling. That keeps surprising me, honestly. Uh, Irvine, a lot of travel for them. I'm not exactly sure how much. I want to say it's been 5,000 miles, but I could be wrong. But let me see. Here we go. UC Irvine traveling back. Uh, they played in South Carolina on Sunday, right? They traveled back to California, now back to the East Coast. That's 5,000 miles they've traveled this week. Scheme-wise, there are a few glaring advantages for both offenses. With a deep veteran backcourt led by an outstanding Mo Lou, the Lions can shoot over UCI's massive zone. Conversely, the massive UCI lineup has a distinct advantage in the paint. Columbia's defense, where rim protection has been an issue all year long, is going to really face it against I forget how you say his name, Manudu. He's the big guy, right? But he's not 100%. But obviously, never having to leave home is going to be a huge advantage for Columbia on this quick turnaround into the finals. Columbia has played 3 straight jump shooting teams in the tournament. So this is the first time that the suspect rim protection is going to be tested. But the travel is such a big issue at this point. Columbia, was kind of what kind of effect does Smith taking the San Francisco job have to do on his team tonight? If you don't know the head coach moving out there, we should see a lot going on off the court around this team. I'm not loving it. I don't know how much max effort you're going to get from kids that have a coach leaving. And also, I don't know how much offensive output you're going to get from a team that just traveled 5,000 miles. Even though each defensive inefficiencies play towards each team's offensive efficiencies, I still like the under in this one. I just think, I don't know if there'll ever be much rhythm. Manudu, this is the name, yeah. He was terrible last game. He was terrible last game because he's not 100%. So, you can't blame him for that. But I agree. So, I think you're not going to get much of a rhythm here. You're going to get a lot of half court, a lot of bad shooting. Despite, like I said, if Columbia can hit their outside shots, which they've been proven to do, maybe they run away with this one. But again, the effort-wise, your coach is leaving. Do they back the coach and say, good for you, and let's go out a winner? Or they say, F you, dude, why are you going anywhere? We had a great season, stick around. Maybe for the seniors, they'll be into it, but underclassmen, I can't imagine they're happy their coach is leaving. The same coach that probably recruited them, right? So we'll see. A lot of storylines there to think about. Again, no client play, but it is what it is. What are we going on in baseball on the scoreboard? Still 1-0 Oakland. All right, good. So that's the other one. So again, I'm going to tend to lean towards the under on that one, with maybe a side towards Columbia, but nothing positive there at all as far as a side. Other game coming up here, Old Dominion against UC Santa Barbara. This Santa Barbara team just won't go away. And Old Dominion obviously playing well. They want to grind you out. Santa Barbara, sort of to do the same. Neither team's offense wants to really run. You look at Old Dominion this year on neutral courts, the under 6-1 over the last 3 years, 14-2. And on a neutral court, when the line's 3 or less, under's 8-0, as random of a stat that is. But the neutral court says something. Defense travels. All tournament games this year, the under 6-1 in Dominion games, 16-6 over the last 3 years, and you go over to Santa Barbara, sort of 50-50 when it comes to the totals in that aspect. As far as pace of play, they both basically play the same. Like I said, 59 shots, both. Both don't get to the line a lot, but Santa Barbara tends to foul a little more. They impressed me, though, in their last game. And Old Dominion, I've been riding the Old Dominion train for a while. I like them. And I know Santa Barbara has some questions at the forward position and the guard. John Green didn't show up for the tournament. They beat a Northern Illinois team that really didn't shoot well at all. On first glance, obviously, Old Dominion looks good. But, you read a little bit into what Jordan has to say, which isn't Old Dominion runs up against the 3-2 zone, and this is a big factor if you really think about it, okay? Because Old Dominion, what does Old Dominion try to do, right? They run their offense through Freeman, right? Who's dominating the mid-range game off ball screens, and they send their two forwards and center to clean up the misses. However, as you know, if you watch basketball, it's not easy to get those mid-range jumpers against the 3-2 zone. There's never, there's always someone there. There's never really any opening in the middle inside the three-point line. So it could be tough for them to score tonight, right? Just based on that. However, UCSB's on the defensive glass isn't great. So Old Dominion should be able to get their offensive rebounds, right? It took UCSB a little while to get going against Northern Iowa, but towards the end of the game, they started shooting good. Jordan says ultimately he thinks the Gauchos can successfully defend Freeman, which I agree, and they might be that might be all they need, really. If their offense can get going and play the way it did in the second half of Northern Iowa, he thinks Santa Barbara wins, and I agree to that. Like I said, when I first looked at this game, initially I was like, oh, Old Dominion should wax them. But the more I've been watching basketball this year and seeing how much success Syracuse is having with this zone, really shutting down offenses and stuff like that, I really think that Old Dominion's going to have a lot of tough time scoring. Again, these are free plays, though. I would lean Santa Barbara here. You're getting 2 points, you take it on the money line or whatever, and you go from there. But we shall see. We shall see. And the last college basketball game here is late night. Oakland at Eastern Tennessee State, right? Oakland obviously dominating offensive performance yesterday. Eastern Tennessee also big upset against Louisiana Tech. Not big upset. They were like 4-point dogs. But their offense got rolling also. You got a line set at 172, right? And I'm taking the over in this one. For one, both teams have no problem running it up and down the court at all. If you don't know, 170, yeah, sure. It might seem pretty high, but let's really take a look at it. Oakland, this year, when the total has been 170 or higher, they've actually had 8 games where the total's been 170 or higher. The over, 7-1 in those games. Pretty astounding number there. 7-1 with a number that big. As a favorite, Oakland in the last 3 years, the over when Oakland is favored, 26-12. Pretty impressive there. Also, and it just goes on and on with trends towards the over. Also, just ATS this year, 20-7 for Oakland. Pretty impressive. When playing against teams with winning records, 14-4 ATS this year. Versus good offensive teams, 5-1 ATS. You look at Eastern Tennessee when playing against teams with winning records, 6-4, but the over in those games, 9-2. Also in March, 4-0. All the games in March for them, all have gone over. They've really turned the tempo up. I like the over in this one. There's not much to it. I think both teams, there should be 75 possessions easily in this one, if you ask me. You get Fielder running with that other kid there from Eastern Tennessee. Should be fun. Unfortunately, it's 11:30 at night, and not many people will watch it. But it will probably be the most entertaining game of the night. Oakland, they're going to be able to control the pace. In that scenario, there's no stopping this offense when they go. They get to the basket, they get fouled, they hit threes. I don't know if, as far as a side, I don't know if the 6.5 seems a lot. Eastern Tennessee is going to have to really score a lot of points to keep up. 1.17 points per possession against Townsend. Oakland scored. Pretty impressive against a defensively minded Townsend team. And now you got an Eastern Tennessee State team that's going to let them run. Watch out for that one. Oakland could get out of hand, but we shall see. So I like